Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Live Free Now Show, bringing you the news, views, tips, and tools you can use to live a free, prosperous, and healthy life. I'm your host, John Bush, and we have a great program lined up for you today. We're going to be hanging out with the one and the only Mr. Glen Meder of Privacy Academy. We're going to get up to date on the latest and greatest on the privacy freedom front. We'll talk about digital ID, big tech attacks on your privacy. And most importantly, we'll spend some time talking about solutions, what you can do to achieve greater privacy in the panopticon society. Things are happening fast, per usual, always happening so fast. So it's important for us to have a good strategy that we can employ to stay free in an unfree world. And Privacy Academy can help us in doing just that. Before we bring Glen on, though, I want to remind you guys, we actually have a webinar coming up with an organization I just started, Divine Purpose PMA. Divine Purpose PMA. It is a private membership association aimed at helping folks to deploy the trifecta framework. DivinePMA.com/webinar is the website. DivinePMA.com/webinar is the website. And you can go there to register. It's going live February 5th. It'll actually be an encore replay of the first one we recorded 2 weeks ago. We had tons of people that wanted to check that out. So you can go over to DivinePMA.com/webinar and register today. But without further ado, let's bring on our guest. We're going to be hanging out for the next hour, talking shop. Mr. Glen Meder, how are you?
Good. How you doing, John?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah. What's going on in your world lately? You guys seem to be staying busy with Privacy Academy and your son, Eric.
Yeah, we are constantly growing what we're doing. We've got some great privacy experts on staff. We are rolling out some, we're rolling out some changes to what we're doing. I can't announce it just yet, but we're constantly trying to update what we do. You know, this world that we live in changes all the time, and especially the world of privacy and surveillance and tech tools and all of that stuff. So we have to keep on top of it, and that's what we love to do. So I'm excited about it.
Excellent. Cool. Well, why don't you first start by introducing yourself to the audience and let us know how you got into this whole freedom game.
Yeah. So my name is Glen Meder. I'm the founder of Privacy Academy. And what we do is we teach people how to be private and secure. And I think privacy and security is the single most important issue facing humanity right now. I really believe that that is true. You know, they being governments all around the world, all governments are colluding with each other. They're colluding with big tech, with big corporations, economic forum, and they're colluding to build this digital control grid. And this digital control grid is, I mean, the purpose of it is to lock us down, total surveillance, total control. It is basically, they want to enslave humanity. And my message is, you know, we have our rights come from God. We have to stand up for those rights. Even though our rights come from God, we have to protect ourselves. Not like something that we can just say, okay, you know, our rights come from God, leave us alone. We have to take the steps ourselves to protect ourselves. And then I believe that we have to stand up in our local communities and all of that stuff and fight for liberty and fight for them to honor the, you know, the purpose that government exists, which is supposed to be to protect our rights, our God-given rights. But we have to stand up and make sure there's good people in local government to do that. So that's another part. I think that's we can get into that further down the road. But the main point of what I try to do is just teach you how to stay safe yourself and how to get your own house in order when it comes to privacy.
Right on. We may have a little disagreement on government, because I personally think government's operating exactly as it was intended to. And the idea that government was designed to protect our rights, I think it's a bit of a myth personally. But well, I don't want to start the show with a debate, but that's how I feel about it all.
No, I agree with you in the sense that, okay, so this is the way I look at it is if you look at the population, if you look at the general population all around the world, there's about 1% of people that are psychopaths. And there's about 3% that are sociopaths, which are not quite as extreme as psychopaths. The rest of the people are really good people. The majority of people are very good people. The problem with government is that, and actually Frank Herbert, the creator of Dune, has a fantastic quote on this. He says the problem of government is not that they, I can't remember exact quote, but the point of the quote is that they are magnetic to the corruptible. And so while only 1% of the population is psychopaths, I would say in government, you have a much higher percent of people that are psychopaths and sociopaths. And I think the fallacy is that we keep trusting government, and we're trusting people that are not trustworthy. And the problem is that the people that are good people that should be in government aren't the ones that they don't seek power. Regular people don't seek power. And so if we, the people, don't stand up and take over government ourselves, then it will be taken over automatically by the people that are power seekers. And so in that sense, I agree with you, but I still think that I don't. So here's where I think I disagree with you, is that I don't think we can just exit and just live our lives. I do think that's a great strategy. I definitely think we do need to do that, but I don't think we can only do that. I don't think we can just give up on keeping ourselves, pushing the privacy and freedom and liberty. The Constitution gives the power to the states and to the local communities, and we have to just follow the law. And the reason that our rights keep getting infringed is because they keep centralizing power, and that's not following the law. The law is decentralized, and so we have to stand up for that. So I do think that with this digital control grid, I think a lot of places are going to fall. I do. I think New Zealand, basically, they just have all submitted already. Australia, Canada, there's a lot of places that will fall. There will be a lot of places that fall in the US too, but I think there will be pockets of liberty. And I think we've got to ensure that there will be pockets of liberty. And that's my goal, is I think we can help people do that.
Right on. But you're still spending most of your time on providing solutions people can take without, regardless of what government does.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is what we try to do here at Live Free Academy.
Exactly.
I'm always worried too, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So you get good people in office and there's a tendency towards corruption regardless. But I completely agree that unfortunately, when you have this institution that allows individuals to project power and to put themselves in a position of authority, false authority, it does tend to attract the worst of society, unfortunately.
I think that's the primary problem. I think yes, power corrupts, but I think the primary problem is that it is attractive to the psychopaths, and those are the people that are getting in there now. And
well, it's like the ring in Lord of the Rings. I think we should just try to do everything we can to do away with the ring or insulate and protect ourselves from the ring, which is what we both agree on is there's steps we can take to limit or completely eliminate the rings, the power center, the predatory structure, eliminate its influence in our lives. And in large part, the new paradigm is much of the treachery, much of the big brother stuff, which is what you focus on, right? We focus largely on the digital control grid, the financial control grid. Much of it's coming through the private sector nowadays, which isn't government, but it has power and money from government and influence from government, but people are voluntarily opting into it, myself included.
Yeah, and that's how they're trying to get around the Constitution and all the laws, is they're just having the corporations do it. But here's another point that I think is very important, is that one of the things that we teach in Privacy Academy is that there's 3 threats. So there's hackers and scammers, there's big tech, and there's Big Brother. And I think I think it's wrong to just focus on one or two. We have to focus on all 3, because all 3 are very dangerous. And hackers and scammers, I would say, are the most immediate threat. So, big tech and Big Brother, and especially Big Brother, is the most existential threat. But hackers and scammers is the most immediate threat. And the problem is that the more that you give your data to any of these groups, because that's what they all want, whether you look at hackers and scammers, big tech, or Big Brother, they all want your data. And I think we have to realize that our data is extremely valuable. And the proof of that is that all 3 of these threats, that's all they want. They will do everything to get your data. And we personally don't value our data. We just say, oh, well, my privacy's gone anyway. So, I'm not even going to fight for it. But they're doing everything they can to get that data. And so we have to stop the flow of data. And it's not just stopping the flow of data to hackers and scammers. It's also, we have to stop the flow of data to big tech and Big Brother, because they all feed each other. So the more data, so this is something that we have found. The UK is going crazy with digital ID right now. They're trying to force everybody to have digital ID. Now, the thing with digital ID is it's not just digital ID, it's also a centralized database that stores all of that data that they collect about you. So they're surveilling you and centralizing that. At the same time, so just last month, the UK government said, there's a big article that they said, we have failed on our cybersecurity. We can't protect our own data. And so they're on one side of they're saying, give us all of your data. And on the other side, they're saying, we have failed. We have to go back to zero to try to figure out how to secure everybody's data, or our data, or whatever. And then there's another aspect with this, which is big tech like Microsoft. And most people don't realize this, but when they have a Microsoft computer and you have Windows and you have Copilot on your computer, Copilot takes a screenshot every second of your screen. And then there's AI that lives on your computer, that's on the Windows operating system, that analyzes that and understands that data. Now, what has been proven is that everything that you do on your computer is stored on your computer. So just imagine what a treasure trove that data, every single picture of every screenshot of everything that you do every second. Just imagine what a treasure trove that is for hackers and scammers. They would love to get that. And there are a number of articles in the hacker community that says it is so easy to break in to steal the data that Copilot takes of you. So anyway, my point is that they all feed each other. And so our goal has to be to start valuing our data. We have to really realize that our data is very important. We have to flow our data to all of these sources, because the more data that flows, the more vulnerable we are. So that was a big rant there. So I don't know if I went too far with that, but
no, we have an hour. We're ranting back and forth here. So yep. I shared them with my audience. It'll be good just to chat and connect, because usually we're doing a webinar that's a little more scripted or has a presentation. Yep. So we're just freestyling here. So yep. You laid out 3 attack vectors: scammers and hackers, big tech, and big government, Big Brother. So let's start on the first one, because a lot of people focus all their energy on Big Brother, big tech, Apple, but most of the harm that individuals experience comes from other individuals, criminals and hackers. So what would you say is the most prevalent scam out there that people fall for?
Yeah, so I think to start talking about this, I think we have to start with the point that hackers and scammers is not just some guy sitting in his basement in his underwear. I mean, this is organized crime, and not only is it organized crime, but it is organized governments that are targeting people. So North Korea really makes most of its revenue, I believe, from hacking and scamming other people.
Hmm.
And they don't just hack and scam governments and businesses and all that stuff. They focus on people. People are the most vulnerable. So uh, now, as far as what is the most prevalent, the most prevalent form of attack is phishing. So whether that is, phishing emails, phishing text messages, or whatever, that's the most likely way that you're going to get attacked. And so that what that means is you get a text message or you get an email from, you know, Amazon or PayPal or your bank or whatever, and then you think it's real. Or usually, a big part of it is UPS. UPS will say that they're calling you. Or I did get a text message the other day from my bank, and it wasn't really my bank, and it's really hard to tell that sometimes. So they're very good at what they do. But then once they give you these messages, then there's some different ways they can take it. So they can get you to come to a website that, so if it's an email that says it's from PayPal, there can be a link on there that brings you to a fake website that looks like PayPal. And then if you put your username and password in it, and then you're giving them your username and password, and then they could even ask you for, they could even, at the same time of you putting it in there, they could actually be going to PayPal and putting in your data, and then you get a text message for your two-factor authentication, and then you just get like this button, this wheel that spins that says we're having technical problems right now, but you've just given them access to your PayPal account. That's one way to do it. But the other way to do it is they can have a phone number for you to call. And then you get on the phone with somebody that is a scammer. And these scammers are really, really good. And I think one of the problems that people have is they think that they're not going to fall for this. But they're good. They are very, very good. And even I am always on guard with this. I don't think that, okay, they're never going to be able to scam me. They're good. I know they're very good. So you just got to keep skeptical. You've got to be very careful and meticulous in how you get to certain things. So let's say you get an email from PayPal. Don't click on the link. Instead, go to your browser, click on type in PayPal.com, and then it's going to be more of a pain because you're going to have to navigate to where you need to get to. But that's the only way that that it's actually the website that you want to go to. And PayPal does have a phone number or a place to call for fraud calls, all of that stuff. And so you can reach out to them. It's a pain, but the other thing is, I would say, whenever you get on the phone with a scammer, there's red flags that you have to look out for. And one of them is if they try to create urgency. If they ever try to create urgency, that is something that that has to be something in your mind that is like, wait a minute, why are they trying to create urgency? Why are they trying to create fear? Or, if you don't do this right now, you're going to, such and such, they're going to steal everything you've got. Somebody's already in your account. We've got to address this right now, or you're going to lose everything that you've got. So they create this urgency. And so you've just got to take a pause, and you've got to just detach and just don't buy into the urgency. So,
yeah. Yeah, just be skeptical. And one good tip too is, like, if you didn't initiate something, if and it comes out of nowhere. Most of these platforms too, they have there's not actually like some extreme emergency usually, even with banking. if somebody ends up getting access to your card or your account is compromised, in most instances, when you actually do contact the bank, and of course, one great way to know it's not a scam is if you initiate it, but that's not even 100% if it gets intercepted or something. But usually there's opportunities to recover. So it's never some like, oh, I got to figure it out now. The urgency is definitely something that they play up on. If you're just joining us, this is the Live Free Now show every Wednesday, most Wednesdays live at 11 a.m. Central. We're chatting with Glen Meder of the Privacy Academy. PrivacyAcademy.com is the website. We collaborate often, his audience and the Live Free Academy audience as well. Him and his son, Eric, provide awesome services, webinars, great promotions for really cool privacy products as well. The website's privacyacademy.com, privacyacademy.com. You know, and it's sometimes hackers can hijack somebody else's email address or their entire server and can send you something from them. So one great check, of course, is like, is this the actual email or website? Because a simple way that hackers can get you is by creating like a clone website, or they add a dash, or they add one more character, and you can't really tell. But just recently, I'm dealing with a legal issue, and the opposition's counsel, they actually there was an email sent from their email address, and it said like, we have this document prepared, click here. And I clicked it, and you click it and it pulls up Microsoft Outlook sign up. Like, you got to sign in through Microsoft Outlook in order to access the account. Now, Microsoft Outlook is more than just the email inbox. There's all sorts of login credentials through Microsoft, just like Gmail has the Gmail authenticator thing. And so thankfully, once I saw it, you could see there was like a screenshot of what the data was. And I was like, what is this? This doesn't look like even what we're dealing with. And then my attorney emailed and called and was like, don't open it. Don't open it. He's the one that forwarded it to me. So even attorneys, which has attorney-client privilege, and you'd think that these professionals were paying hundreds of dollars to if you're in a legal battle, pray that you're not, but you think that they would have their act together, but even they can be compromised. So just vigilance, patience, take things slow, no need to rush into anything. What about on social media? Of course, Telegram is right.
Well, can I stay on the legal side of things? So
yeah, go ahead. What do you got?
So here's one of the new things that people have to adjust their brain to, and that is deep fakes. And deep fakes are being used actually a lot now. So basically what is happening is hackers and scammers are being superpowered now with AI. And there's a lot of different ways they're being superpowered that way. But one of the ways is with deep fakes. And so deep fakes is where you can get on the call, you can get a phone call, or you can get on a phone call or a Zoom call or something like that with your lawyer. And you know this person, you know how his voice sounds, you know his voice patterns, all of this stuff, and you're talking to this guy, right? You could even be doing a video call like we're doing now, and you can see that person, and in real time you're talking to that person. And this is what we have to be careful of now is, even though you're talking to them over the phone or by a Zoom call or something like that, that doesn't mean that you're actually talking to them. Even if you can see them, even if you can hear them, doesn't mean you're actually talking to that person. That can be a deep fake. And the video quality typically is not totally there yet. There's little blips and stuff like that. So what they do is typically is they'll actually, you know, pretend to have like connection problems, or the video quality is lower, or they might hiccup once in a while, and that they imitate like a connection problem. But it is very real. And I was talking to somebody just the other day, and they said they received a call from their niece, and it was her. It sounded like her. It was her. And she was saying that she was in trouble and she needed money and all of this stuff. And the only reason that she knew that this wasn't her niece is her niece was sitting next to her. She was actually at the house, and they were visiting, and she got so freaked out. by this, because she says, I would have never even questioned that I was talking to my niece other than that. So I think you have to be skeptical to a very high degree now. And it's, this is the world we live in now. I mean, it's not something that we choose. It's not something that we want to deal with, but it's the reality. And if we want to keep ourselves safe, this is something that we can't just kind of leave on the back burner. We have to really get involved with keeping ourselves safe this way.
Yeah, that's pretty frightening, the deep fake
Yeah.
stuff. They're pretty sophisticated. I can tell the AI intonation for now, but it's becoming more and more real. And unfortunately, there's a lot of folks. They tend to target older folks too that maybe aren't as discerning with some of these new technologies, and that's how they get a whole lot of victims. And then you have, of course, imposters on platforms like Telegram, which is completely rampant, insane on Telegram. Still a great platform that a lot of people connect on, but the number of scammers and imposters that will create fake pages that mimic a channel that you follow, for example. I even have an imposter on Facebook. I don't know if it's the same person, but Facebook does absolutely nothing to remove them, even when a bunch of people report it. It's not a priority. They're not taking down political posts as much nowadays, but they sure had the resources to take down COVID stuff, but they don't have the resources to take down scammers, unfortunately.
Another thing that is interesting is when we talk about, I don't say interesting it's very bad, but when we talk about hacks and scams and deep fakes and all of that stuff, we typically talk about that as it pertains to adults. And we talk about that as it pertains to, like, okay, they're trying to steal my money. But just imagine how they can use this if they're predators and they want to target kids and they want to target young people. I mean, I think we have to teach our kids how to think about this stuff. And, one of the things that I speak out against a lot is these online child safety acts. The online child safety acts, when did we start believing, and I know you have one passed in Texas, but when did we start believing that, okay, government can take care of us and government is in our, they're doing things for our benefit, and that they're actually going to be able to do it, even if they were doing it for the right reasons. Child safety acts, online child safety acts, is not about protecting kids. It's about having an online digital ID that follows you around online. And that's a digital ID. And so I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but the online child safety acts, we have to really reject these. And it's hard because it's like such a good cause. We all want to protect kids from porn and all of that other stuff, but it's not the right way. What we have to do is we have to be actively involved in teaching and learning with our kids so that they know how serious this stuff can be and how they can be in danger. And we have to learn it for ourselves, but we also have to learn it for their benefit too.
Yeah, well, let's talk more about digital ID, and specifically because you said there's 3 attack vectors: hackers and scammers, big tech, and big government. And it's clear that there's an effort to get as much of our data as possible. Yep. And one thing that I teach is, like, there's these elements of technocracy, of this total panopticon surveillance society they're aiming to create. And one of those elements is digital ID. Another is central bank digital currency, or centrally controlled, surveillable, programmable, censorable money, whether it's issued by a central bank or a private entity. And so when you have this goal, and digital ID is even one of the Sustainable Development Goals from the United Nations, the 2030 Agenda. They'll first, in large part, seems like the easiest for them, maybe not even the easiest for them, is to put it out through government, or to require it, to mandate it, like they did in the UK. It's not as popular or easy in more free societies like the United States, but they have the goal, digital ID, and they'll stop at nothing to get to that goal. And I always teach, I'll teach my staff and stuff and students, like when you have a goal and there's an object in the way of your goal, there's some sort of problem or hurdle, you don't just come up against that object and stop and give up. You got to go around it or over it or under it or get some dynamite and blast through it. They're doing the same thing with digital ID. And so now we see, as you said, the other attack vector is the private sector, big tech. Now we see that digital ID is being pushed forward through big tech, like this whole Apple ID thing. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Some of the threats we see coming from big tech that are kind of a de facto digital ID in themselves?
Yeah, so I think it's important to understand that there's different aspects of the digital ID. So there's I talk about it as being many heads of the beast. So you've got the physical ID. So we've got real ID. That's part of the digital ID. We've got surveillance, biometrics. We've got the Online Child Safety Act, which is, I think, really the key that they're trying to push, which is the online digital ID that will follow you around and totally surveil you online, everything that you do. Then you've got all of this comes to the centralized database. So they want to centralize all of your data, and they're going to do that to learn about you. And then you've got AI, which will analyze everything that you do, and then they will be able to use that against you. So they're weaponizing your data against you. They will use it to control you. They will use it to, once they have a digital ID in place, then they will instantly introduce CBDCs. They can't do CBDCs until they have digital ID. And then once they have digital ID and CBDCs, that will be all managed by AI, which will then be able to just give you instantaneous fines for whatever you do that they don't like you doing. You post something that they don't like or that goes against like hate laws or whatever, then you're going to get an instantaneous fine. Instantaneous. And so, that's how they train dogs. You do another post that they don't like, instantaneous $200 fine, and you don't have any you don't have any recourse or anything like that. And it's managed by AI, which means it can be there's no bottleneck of human labor to manage this thing. It'll be all automatic, and they can program the AI to do whatever they want to do there. Now, you talked about Apple ID and Google ID. So what they're doing is Apple, Microsoft, Google, they've all built in biometrics into their devices and into their operating system. So what I think the UK is a great example for this. So the UK is really pushing this very hard, and they say, okay, if you want to get on the Discord server, if you want to get on Discord, you have to scan your face every single time you get on there. You have to scan your face. So they're integrating with Mac or Apple, and they're saying, okay, Apple has these ways to instantaneously identify everything that you do. So if you get onto Discord, every single time they know exactly who you are, exactly what you say. You cannot hide from them. That's what they want. And so they're working with these big tech companies to do these digital IDs and biometric identification, all of that stuff. Another example of that is Ring. So the Ring doorbell is now, so let's say you're on a neighborhood and there's 3 houses on your strip that have a Ring doorbell, and then maybe you got a couple on the other side of the street. They stitch all that stuff together so that it's so that they can have total surveillance of neighborhoods through Ring cameras, and then they share that with government. And there was just an announcement the other day that Ring doorbell is now part of the Flock camera system. And so the Flock camera, this is government surveillance. So every neighborhood is under surveillance now, and it's under surveillance by governments, and they don't need a warrant, or they don't think they need a warrant. Wow. And no one's pushing them back on this. So they're just going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and they are relentless. They will never stop. And so we have to push back. We have to realize how valuable our data is, our privacy, and we have to, we have to stand up for liberty. If we don't, it's going to be very, very bad.
Man, I was surprised to find recently, if folks aren't familiar, flock cameras are these cameras that scan your license plate, and do they gather other information besides just the physical camera?
Well, I mean, they have, I think the Ring cameras now have facial recognition on them. So yeah, I mean, it's everything they can do to surveil us.
Yeah, and a lot of it's tied in with Palantir, of course. So originally this stuff came out through the Department of Defense. A lot of this technology was first invented through this program called the Total Information Awareness Project that was a part of DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. I don't know, maybe this was 2002 or 2003. It was probably around even before then. And then it got shut down because it was super controversial. But it really went into the private sector. And a lot of people speculate through not even speculation, there's ties into Palantir now. And of course, Palantir, the big tech firm that came in large part from the PayPal mafia and is completely in bed with the Trump administration. That is really one of the big nexuses, and they're linked up and integrated in with these flock surveillance cameras. And I'm here in Bastrop County, which is a rural county just east of Travis County. Well, relatively rural nowadays. It centers around a city, Bastrop City, which only has like 8,000 people. It's a largely rural area. And I was surprised to find that there's tons of these flock cameras all around Bastrop County. And now I will give you this, Mr. Meder, even though I'm very anti-political, I would see benefit in going to the city council, which is happening all over the country, mind you, in a lot of smaller jurisdictions. They go to the city council and they get the flock cameras removed, or they stop them from coming in the first place. So I definitely see value in that. But yeah, this panopticon society is being created all around us, and all of the different aspects are being integrated. And then they get your facial scan for biometrics in all sorts of different avenues. One of them that's the hardest to avoid is through the driver's license system. And even before Real ID, the pictures that they would take, as soon as they had the high resolution capabilities, even before Real ID was fully implemented, they were already taking that high resolution picture. Same thing with your passport. And then people volunteer it up through Facebook. And now you have thousands of pictures of individuals. And then they just take that, put it in databases, cross-reference it. And now they have kind of like your thumbprint, but it's these facial features that will be able to track you when you're out in public. I think the unfortunate thing is there's not much we could do about that, so to speak, right? I mean, I guess if you have a child, you could try to shield them. There's privacy, like I'm into the whole sovereignty through law kind of deal now. So to try to travel without a driver's license in the first place, there'll be some friction and maybe a little hardship there, but that may be one way to avoid it. But what do you say to this whole, obviously we want to be concerned about it. We want to take proactive steps to protect our data, as you started this interview with, but there's kind of an element of some of it where some pieces are kind of a lost cause, like our biometric face image, for example. What are your thoughts on that? We just kind of got to navigate it to the best of our ability.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think what we've got to do is we've got to do what we can. We've got to. So I kind of look at it like I've kind of got a 5-point plan for this. So
you got all sorts of frameworks for this stuff. It's almost like you do this for a living.
Yeah. So, well, what I do is for a purpose. I teach privacy for liberty's sake. And so I really believe, there's a mission behind what I do. And so this is I'm talking here about my mission more and the mission behind Privacy Academy. But the first step is we have to all become aware of what's going on. That's the first thing. The second thing is we have to get our own house in order. And that privacy, we have to learn how to be private. We have to get the right devices. We have to know our stuff. And I would say get our own house in order in other ways too, financial and stuff like that. But primarily I'm talking about privacy and liberty. The third point is we need to share. We need to tell everybody that we can about this. The fourth point, I believe that we need to get involved on a local level as much as we can to to have the local governments protect our liberties from the, federal government and international governments and all of that stuff. And then the fifth point is, after we've done everything that we can do, you can't do anything more. So you have to just surrender to God, and you just have to just trust. And this is an important point, because if you get too deep into this and you start really looking into this, and we've got all these incredibly powerful organizations against us, all of that stuff, you can just say, well, we're screwed. I'm just going to give up. And you can get black-pilled, and you can just feel hopeless and all of that stuff. But I don't think that's the right way to go. I think we just have to do whatever we can do, the best we can do, and then we have to surrender and enjoy our lives. I think we have to just live our lives to the best of our ability. Don't be scared. Don't live in fear. And I think that's a key part of all of this.
Yeah, I'll second each one of those pieces for sure. Especially the God piece. I've come closer to Christ this past in 2025 and ongoing leading up to it. But really, me and my daughter got baptized towards the end of last year, which was really meaningful for me. A lot of people just get all freaked out. One thing that I've learned over 24 years of activism now is that the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. This is an age-old struggle between freedom and tyranny, and now between freedom and privacy as well, because there wasn't a whole lot of technology, surveillance technology back in the day, digital ID. People were in large part left alone. They just lived in fear of a divine rule of kings. Yeah. And the whole religious thing was kind of perverted in a way. But just kind of surrender and in part take gratitude in the fact that we're alive during this time. And there's this massive movement that's growing. I always get a kick out of that. There's even different factions now within our freedom movement. There's even some tribalism. And there's scores and scores. There's a bunch of different people. I think you're one of the best at it, right? And I've worked closely with Hakeem as well, and Above Phone and everything he's doing, Take Back Our Tech. But there's all sorts of people providing solutions in the privacy space as well. So know that the tide is slowly but surely turning. And it's kind of this pendulum thing, or this with every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Like with COVID, for example, they sure advanced the ball pretty far for tyranny and technocracy, but at the same time, they awoken a sleeping giant, and a lot of people that were kind of questioning things, and maybe the bailouts, and I don't know about these politicians, and the Democrats and Republicans sure seem awfully similar. And then COVID happened, and tons of people woke up. So there's even this concept of the Great Awakening. It's all taking place. And one thing that really helps for sure is whenever you can see it as a spiritual battle, because that's definitely what it is. I mean, the Book of Revelations, Mark of the Beast, this whole panopticon society, the predator class is trying to be omniscient. They literally want to know everything and then be omnipresent everywhere all the time. So there is a great movement rising up for sure. Yeah.
And I agree with all of that stuff. And I think we need to, just like what we were just talking about, we need to do the best we can do and live the best life we can live the best life we can live. And that's really what it comes down to. Now, can I say something about getting back into the political side of things? So the political side of things, one thing that's very interesting that I've been exploring now, and maybe you're not as familiar with this because this doesn't, Texas is not part of this, but there are, I think, 22 or 23 states where you can bring amendments to the state constitution to the people and just bypass the legislature altogether. And that's not something that you can do in Texas, but this is something that I think the people can, I think people should run for local office, or at least be a really loud, really make their voice heard. But I think there's another avenue here, and that is we can shape policy in states by just bypassing the legislature and all the politicians totally, and just go to the people themselves. And you can you can bring these constitutional amendments. And what I'm looking into is, could you do it? Could you do an amendment to a state constitution that provides penalties if that amendment isn't followed? And I don't really know if this is true, but I look at like the Second Amendment. So let's look at the Second Amendment. Our rights, these rights shall not be infringed.
That's supposed to be the penalty if the Constitution isn't followed. The Second Amendment, that's the penalty. But
well, yeah, that's a good point. But also it should be like any politician that tries to infringe upon these rights shall automatically be removed, shall automatically lose all of their pension, their government pensions, all of this stuff. So if there was actually a built-in penalty for it, then I think that would have more teeth. And so anyway, if it'd be interesting if you could do like a state amendment that said, property rights. I mean, one of the other things is property rights. And if the right of the people to own property shall not be infringed. And if somebody does infringe upon it, any government worker infringes upon it, they shall be personally liable for anything that happens, something like that. I don't know if that would be a legal way to do an amendment or not, but it's something that is very interesting to me to consider.
Yeah, I hear you. There's some remedies, like there's a lot of movements where they file liens on the bond of these public officials, and they try to go about them that way to where now all of a sudden they can be held personally liable. I know there's this whole movement, this guy Cal Washington, it's called the In Power movement, and they're trying to put these liens on the bonds of public officials that they tie in with doing chemtrails and stuff. They're even going after individual pilots and stuff. It's just, I hear what you're saying. I mean, more power to folks that want to pursue this, but look what's happening with the Epstein files. I mean, we literally have proof, and there's people named now, and none of these people have been held accountable. And so it's one thing to violate privacy. It's another thing to literally have sex with underage girls. And then there's like torture that was listed in the most recent release of these Epstein files. And
ritual killings.
No justice. So I hear what you're saying. I always just caution people, like, let's take Derek Bros, for example. He's doing all sorts of different stuff. And I just really want to encourage people not to put their faith in government to the point where they neglect to exit and build. They neglect to take responsibility into their own hands, thinking that some savior is going to come along and fix the problem for them. That's what happened with Trump.
I agree.
And I know you guys were skeptical of Trump, thankfully, and now come to find out, like, it's everything. It's the worst that we all were saying, and that he's in bed with all sorts of these monsters, and the whole Palantir connection is crazy. But it's all about what can we do. And as you said, the very first thing we can do is stop giving them so much of our data. So we got about 10 minutes left. Let's talk about de-Googled phones and Linux. So that's a great solution. Do you guys use Linux for your live streams? Because I have an above book, and I use Wirecast, so I could do a little bit more sophisticated editing and such. And I'm not sure that solution works as well with Linux, but have you guys just use it for, I know y'all use Webinar Jam and all sorts of Zoom and stuff. You have no problems using Linux with that stuff? I'm
on Linux now. I mean, all I do is use Linux. So, yeah, I mean, I do think that Linux and a Graphene OS phone is very important. I think the thing that I think with Linux is you have to get the right version of Linux, because there are countless versions of Linux, and it's just very important to get the right version of Linux, because most people are not going to be able to use, or they're going to have really hard times using just most versions of Linux, I would say. The version of Linux that I recommend is Zorin, and so I think Zorin is the best version of Linux to use, because it offers all the benefits of Linux, but it also is very easy to use, and I consider it actually an upgrade from Windows or Mac. I just love it. I think it's fantastic, and I would encourage. And by the way, there are a lot of people now that are using Zorin. In October of 2025, they had 1 million downloads of Zorin operating system, and that shows you. I mean, that's pretty impressive. And that was definitely a spike, but that was because that was when Microsoft stopped supporting Windows 10, and so a lot of people were just saying, okay, well, I'm not going to Windows 11, which is a great move. So they want to go to and they chose Zorin, which is a great option. So I use Zorin operating system. I use Graphene OS for the phone, but I think a lot of people, I think it's important to not only just think about the devices. I think that's kind of the easy path for people to take, but really, if you get a Linux or you get a Graphene OS, you can still not have privacy because you don't think about privacy the right way. So what I think is most important is to learn about how to think about privacy. And that's what we do with Privacy Academy. And we say, we will get you to a Linux computer and we will get you to a Graphene OS computer, but I don't think it's the first thing that you should do. There's some core things that you need to learn and learn how to think about things. You need to put some things in place before you get there. And so that's kind of the approach that we take with privacy and security.
Yeah, there's principles to learn before you learn the strategy and the tactics, the principles. Folks, if you're just joining us, this is the Live Free Now show. We do a live stream usually every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central. Actually have guests booked coming up every Wednesday. Next Wednesday, the 11th, February 11th, Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central, I'm joined by Brother Truth. He's somebody that's real deep in the sovereignty through law space. So definitely tune in for that. I want to invite you guys to subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that little subscription button, bing, bing, and then the bell notification so you get notified when we go live. And we're talking with Glen Meder here of Privacy Academy. The website's privacyacademy.com, privacyacademy.com. I want to invite you to check it out if you're liking the cut of his jib. He's been in this space for quite some time, and he has a knack for simplifying a lot of complex stuff. So privacyacademy.com. And then head over here and click join newsletter right here at the top, privacyacademy.com, join newsletter, sign up for his, you see my Gmail there, but I got Proton Mail too. Maybe I needed to join the Privacy Academy. I actually have an account with you guys, so maybe I need to watch more of the material. Join and check out his work. That's how you can keep in touch. They do regular free webinars and all sorts of great stuff over there. Yep. Him and his son, Eric. So, you got anything else? You got anything coming up, or what are some of the latest things? We got about 5 minutes left. Besides joining the newsletter, how can folks stay in touch with you?
So we just did a webinar on privacy computers. So if you go to privacycomputers.com, I mean, if people want to learn about the computers that we recommend, that's something that they can do. But I really just recommend that you start taking this very seriously. And start realizing, because you were talking about the Great Awakening earlier, and I totally agree with that. I think people are waking up in droves, and it's wonderful. But the problem is, all of these people that are waking up still don't necessarily see how the attack is really coming, and the attack is coming. The attack on our liberty is coming through the digital control grid, and I personally consider most of everything that happens in the news to be distractions, intentional manufactured distractions. And they want to keep you focused on this other stuff, this divisiveness, the left, right thing, all of this stuff. They want you to focus on the latest, whatever emergency is going on right now. And that's the illusionist. They want you to focus up here while they're doing everything back here, and they don't want you to look at what's going on with this hand. They want you to look at this. And what's really going on is the digital control grid. And this is how our liberty is under attack. And so we have to really wake up to this.
Excellent. All right. Well, yeah, I appreciate you. Yeah, the privacy is critical, and it's clear the control grid isn't just, it's not like they just want to watch everybody. They want all that data so they can then manipulate, socially engineer you, fit you into this little conformist box where you're taking all the shots and everything's all woke, and they've like shifted your mindset. And before you know it, a couple generations go by and the concept of freedom has just been eliminated. People are nervous to even talk about freedom. That's what they're aiming to do. And Glen's Privacy Academy will help you to see it, learn the principles and the strategies to opt out. And like I said, one of the things that Glen does is teach folks in a very simple way. So even if you feel a little overwhelmed by technology or smartphones or whatever, Glen has a knack for teaching things in a simple way. So, hey, appreciate you spending some time with us, Mr. Meder.
Absolutely. Loved it.
All right. Okay. We'll talk soon. Thanks so much, Glen.
Yeah. Thank you.
All righty. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Glen Meder of Privacy Academy. The website's privacyacademy.com, privacyacademy.com, or you can head over to privacyacademy.com/computers or Privacy Computers. That's a great URL to own. Good job on that one there, Glen. Privacycomputers.com, and you'll be able to see some of their laptops and little desktop mini computers that actually come pre-installed with Zorin OS, which is a Linux operating system that makes it really easy to use. Again, guys, if you're tuning in to the program, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you hit that little like button, subscribe to the channel to help us boost up so more people can reach this content. And I want to invite you again to the Trifecta Effect webinar. This is a private membership association that I created called Divine Purpose PMA, and we're going to be exploring how you can utilize common law trusts, private membership associations, and a ministry in order to pursue your divine purpose with grace and ease outside of the clutches of the beast system. If you're somebody that's grown tired of paying taxes to pedophiles, Satanists, and you're looking for a lawful way out, register for the webinar. If you're tuning in, today's February 4th, for those of you that are here live. Tomorrow, February 5th at 12 p.m. Central, we're going to be running an encore replay of this webinar. It's about 2.5 hours long or so. And then if you're watching this replay later, worry not. We'll keep shuffling these through, so you'll be able to watch it maybe a couple weeks later as well. You'll be able to catch the replay instantly if you're joining a couple days after February 5th. That's divinepma.com/webinar, divinepma.com/webinar. And then thanks again, everybody, for joining us live. I want to invite you next week, Wednesday the 11th at 11 a.m. Central. We'll be joined by Brother Truth. If you subscribe to the channel and you hit that bell notification, you'll get notified whenever we go live for that. Lots going on in the world of the Live Free Now show, Live Free Academy, Divine Purpose PMA, the Exit and Build movement, the People's Reset, the Freedom Cell Network, you name it. We're doing everything we can to help people create greater freedom and prosperity in their lives. And that's our mission here on the Live Free Now show, where every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central, we bring you the news, views, tips, and tools you can use to live a free, prosperous, and healthy life. Until next time, stay free out there, my friends. Bye.